All right, guys, welcome back for chapter 6. And one of my absolute favorite chapters. And basically, what we'll start off with nobody ever wants to do a bad job at anything. All right, nobody starts off saying, I want to be a bad dad, I want to be the worst teacher ever. And I want to cobbler this thing up as badly as I possibly can, right? And so what happens, right? What are some of the things that can really trip you up? And what are some of the things you got to watch out for, right? So basically, let's go through this list of things that can seriously impact your results and have a pretty profound impact on your ultimate destination, right? So we call this chapter Diseases of Attitude, right? And one of the things that's very important here is negative is normal, right? You are going to have some tough times. You are going to have some feelings that are powerfully not positive. But just remember this, right? Negative is normal, but it's not successful, right? So don't dwell in negativity, right? Don't ignore it. Instead, handle it, right? Do something about it. Get back on a positive track. Go through your routines, your habits to get back to focusing on the bigger picture and bounce through it quickly, right? So on this list, we've got 7 things that can really change the trajectory of your life. So let's go through them, all right? So the first one is neglect, right? And I always use a pretty easy example here, but just imagine if you stopped brushing your teeth for a month, right? What is the cost of repairing all of those cavities, all of those problems, maybe some gum disease, maybe you got to replace a couple of teeth. But 1 month of neglect can take you like a year to fix, right? So it's very important to understand what your responsibilities are and to really make sure that you spend the proper time on dealing with them, right? Okay, so neglect is not worth it, right? And you're going to have that little inner voice saying, oh, I really don't feel like doing this now. Ugh, I'd rather bloody poke myself in the head with a fork than do this. But the reality is, when you have that feeling, I want you to just think back to the notes on neglect and say, if I don't do this, if I don't handle my business here, not only am I going to probably have to do this over multiple times, but I'm also going to have to redo work that I have already done, where I have actually won the battle against my inner voice and gotten up and done it, right? So nobody wants to redo work. Nobody wants to go back and do second grade or third grade again. Let's keep moving. Let's get to the next grade and go from there, right? Okay, number 2, indifference, right? I don't see what they're getting all worked up about. It's not that big of a deal. And essentially, this is just a very soft, mild approach to life, right? And when we talk about, I'm not sure which book it comes from, but it's, I'll find, but I recall the 4 quadrants, right? And so you have high energy positive people that get up at 4, that they work their butts off, they're jumpy, they make the calls, they've got energy towards the goal, but they get a lot done, and they put a lot of energy into creating outcomes, right? And that's kind of state number 1. State number 2 is high energy negative, right? So these are people that take a lot of action, but they'll also take a lot of negative action when they're upset. They'll break a racket, they'll yell at someone. Then you have the 3rd quadrant, which is the low energy positive. And that's kind of the, it's fine, everything's cool, I'm happy, you're happy. But they're just not doing anything, You know, it's just an overall feeling of mediocrity and fitting in with the general mass. And I feel quite honestly that a lot of schools, a lot of people want everyone to be there, right? Everybody's happy, nobody's getting offended. You know, there's all these words are now like, you know, you can't say this, you can't say that. But I think at the end of the day, it doesn't work, because they're just going to find something else to be offended by. And it also doesn't work that, you know, everybody's going to end up with the same outcome. You know, so I've always believed that you should have the equal rights, you know, whether you're black, white, pink, purple, 2 foot tall, 5 foot tall, have a Russian accent, German accent, whatever. You should have the same rights under the law as everybody else, right? And I'm a huge believer in that. But how you think and what your ambition is and what you decide to spend your time on is a very individual thing. So one person wants to be a teacher, one person wants to be an astronaut, one person wants to be a professional athlete, whatever. And nobody can force that choice upon you, right? It's up to you to decide how you want to differentiate yourself by choice, all right? And so at the end of the day, you're not going to magically drift to the top of Everest, right? To be any kind of winner, any kind of success story, you've got to get worked up. You've got to get passionate. You've got to get excited, right? You've got to have like, hey, I want to do this. This is for me. This is what I love. I'm deeply appreciative of the opportunity to do it, and I really want to make something happen, right? You got to have strong feelings, right? You've got to love winning. You got to hate losing. You got to be desperate to find a solution today, now, not next week, but today, right? And those are all strong feelings, right? They're all deeply energetic states of human where things can happen, right? If you love being in a battle, you're not going to quit halfway. You're not going to want the battle to end. You'll stay out there for 4 hours trying to get the job done, because you actually, underneath the winning and the losing, you enjoy being a competitor, right? So if you have a meek, anything goes, go with the flow, hang out, deliver 50% effort, you're just going to cancel your future, right? You're just going to cancel like Netflix cancels a show. The show of what you could have been is going to get canceled by the mild, weak, same as everybody else approach, right? So, to not be indifferent to whatever it is, how you behave on the court, how you eat, how you sleep, what things you do in practice. You need to start being like, I care. I care a lot about how I do it, the way I do it, etc., right? Okay, so that's number 2. Number 3, indecision, right? And this is a tough one, because especially when you're a young athlete, you're inexperienced, and so when you're confronted with a choice, you're going to be wrong a lot, right? And the fact that you don't know exactly what to choose makes it hard to choose, so that's going to come up a lot. And basically, you get the, kind of this guy can't make up his mind. He doesn't know what he wants to do. He doesn't know if he wants to study architecture or medicine, so he's kind of just doing 1 million general education credits. Excuse me. But, if you're on the fence about anything, just get off. Either side, doesn't matter. Left side, right side. There's always this little experiment that we do, and I'll try to do it for you on camera, right? But here is someone holding up 2 hands, right? And then you say, which one, right, is the bottle cap in, right? And so now you have someone come along and it's like, ooh, I don't know. Oh, should I choose left? Should I choose right? And in the time that it takes to do that, right, 10 minutes goes by and nothing's happened, right? Now look at it the other way around. You go, okay, I'm going to go with left hand, right? Boop, wrong. Okay, right hand. Boop, got it, right? So being wrong is actually a very fast way to being right, okay? And it's very important to just understand that principle, right? Being wrong is a very quick path to being right, right? If you're driving and you're supposed to see ocean and you don't, well, you realize you took a wrong turn up there because you're now seeing desert, and it's easy to fix it, right? But staying at that stoplight forever, there's not enough information to correct your choice, and you could end up having that discussion in your head forever, right? Okay, so you're either going to get an opportunity from your decision, right, because it was a good one, or you're going to realize that it was a bad decision and just move on to the next one, right? Okay, so experience is what's going to make you a really, really good decision maker. And the only way to get experience is to make a lot of decisions, many of them bad, as you start to filter out why they were bad and what could have been different, and you slowly become a better decision maker, right? So you really need to take the responsibility of being a decision maker, but also being accountable for the results of that decision, right? So you need to, essentially have quite an adult approach to it from an early age. So it's one of those things where you want to grow up quickly. But it's important as part of the process of learning to just be like, listen, my best gut instinct tells me go left here. 20 minutes later, should have gone right. Okay, jot it down, learn it. But don't be afraid to make mistakes, right? Don't be afraid to make a call and back that call, and just stay away from indecision. Stay away from paralysis by analysis, paralysis on the sidelines, unable to put together a go-forward plan because you're scared that it might end up being wrong. Okay, so an easy way to summarize that: don't think about how many decisions you can get out of. Think about how many decisions you can get into, right? Okay, so number 4, doubt, right? Doubt is going to lead to indecision because you're not sure. You doubt yourself, right? Sitting on the fence, not sure which road to pick, right? We went through this on the previous one, but the reality is it's much easier and quicker to get to the right answer by being wrong, right, than it is by not making either of the decisions, right? So pick a direction and go with it, right? You'll find out quickly enough if it's wrong, right? The worst type of doubt is self-doubt, right? And I'll give you a story for that one too, but just imagine that, somebody came over to your house and said, listen, I've hid $1 million somewhere in your house, right? How much energy would you have to go and look for it? And the answer for most people is quite a bit. It's a small area. It's not going to take me that long to search it, so maybe a day at the most of searching away from being a millionaire. So I'm quite excited by that, right? And now if the person said, okay, I've taken $1 million and I've hid it at your school, right? You say, well, it's much bigger. There's a lot more place to search. It might take me 3 weeks or something like that. But, 3 weeks to become a millionaire, I'm pretty excited. I'm not as energetic and excited as I was about the in my house scenario, but I'm pretty excited, right? And then if somebody says, I've hidden it somewhere in France, it's going to take you 20 years of searching endlessly to get there. And suddenly you have no motivation. You have no energy whatsoever. You're like, it's a waste of time. Why would I want to spend 20 years to get this thing, right? So if you have doubt that you can achieve your goals, right, that doubt creates a lot of procrastination. It creates a lot of resistance to taking action because you start to think, well, is the action worth it? Why would I get up at 4 a.m. and work till midnight and do that for 5 years if the end result is it's not going to be a success anyway, right? So instead of taking that road, right, instead of doubting yourself, doubt your preparation instead. So be like, okay, listen, if I had, 1 million hours of training, I'd be a lot further along than I am at 100,000, right? If I have 100,000 hours, it's a little bit of a big number, let's scale it back, 1,000 hours, and the other guy has 2,000 hours, it's logical to think that he's probably better prepared than you are, right? So if you do play someone with 8,000 hours and you only have 2,000 hours, right? Don't start to doubt yourself. Doubt your preparation and be like, yeah, I'm not prepared enough to challenge that person yet. And rather let me double down on my disciplines and double down on my work ethic, and catch up in terms of preparation. Really make smart decisions. Really try to be efficient and cut out unnecessary stuff in practice, so that I can make a lot of forward progress every single time, right? On average, someone who's done, let's say, 8,000 hours of training, how many of those are productive hours, do you think, right? And I think, for most people, it's probably, in the best case scenario, 75%, right? So 2,000 of the 8,000 hours you can throw out because they were a waste of time, and 6,000 is what you're chasing, right? Now, if you're unproductive in practice and, in 8,000 hours, you only get 2,000 hours of work done, well, then it's going to take you like 30,000 hours to catch up to where they are, which is a very inefficient process. You either need to have, the most understanding transport system that'll leave you at the courts for 10 hours a day, or you need to work on your goals and your method through practice and make sure that it's better, right? Okay, worry, right? As we know in the real world, worry can cause health problems, it can cause personal problems, it can cause social problems, it can cause family problems. So you got to give up worrying about stuff as quickly as you can. If you spend the whole night wide awake stressing because of a match, can't sleep, can't eat, anxiety is taking over your body, you are definitely not going to perform well. And, the 1 hour event of the match, make it 2 hours, you're spending 45 hours of anxiety time on. There's a huge imbalance there in terms of its priority position in your thinking ladder, and how much gravity you're giving to it. So you need to have some mental disciplines there to be like, no, I've done my prep, it's 4 p.m. or whatever, I've had my stretch, I'm now going to go sleep. I'll do a game prep beforehand and go through some points, visualize, think about how I want to address the match tomorrow, and that's it. I'm going to sleep, I'm going to dream about something else. And when I get up tomorrow, I want to be nice and fresh and I want to have a good competition. But the buck stops at the boundary line, and I set pretty strict boundaries for myself there so that I don't end up panicking and worrying forever, right? Okay. So a very good way to think about this is you don't want a life that's free of challenge, right? You will be bored to death, okay? You don't want a life that's free of difficulty, right? Difficulty is where the opportunity is. Challenge is where the opportunity is, and the fun, to be honest with you, right? And so you want challenge, you want difficulty, but you don't want to worry about the challenges and the difficulty, right? So that's the mental framework that you want to build on that one, right? Okay. All right. Number 6, over caution, right? And I might even add that over risking is, two sides of the same coin there. But you'll never have much if you're too cautious, right? And that doesn't mean just go out there and be reckless, right? But you need to be able to take responsible risk, right? You need to take some chances. You do need to go for it sometimes. You do need to let loose and let it flow, and take the bull by the horn, so to speak, right? And so thoughts like, what if this happens? If it goes wrong, I'll have so much work to do. I better not try. If you're consistently talking yourself out of things, right, then you probably have a problem with seeking adventure, right? And I think you need to add that word, think about that word. The match is an adventure, right? It's a hell of a lot better than sitting at home around the kitchen table watching, some random movie but doing nothing, or, petting the cat. So there's a type of personality that seeks competition, and that's someone who likes puzzles, that likes adventure, likes to get out there and try new things. And so you support that in your personality and be like, you know what, I'm not going to die if I lose this match. I'm not going to die if I play a terrible match, right? If I'm absolutely reckless and it doesn't go my way, or if I'm overly timid and it doesn't go my way. So I think a lot of people need to zoom out and look at the match as one of several hundred, rather than today's event is the pinnacle, ultimate event of my existence. And then they create so much pressure for themselves that it's very hard to perform. Right? Okay. So another one of my favorite sayings here is, if you think investing in the stock market is risky, wait until you get the bill for not investing, right? You gotta think about that one. That's a good one, right? Okay. If you think that action is risky, wait until you get the bill delivered to you, the check that you have to pay for inaction, right? If you think action is risky, wait until you get the bill for inaction, right? Okay, everything's risky. Everything has a potential for a bad outcome. You could drive to school and have a bad outcome, right? You could get arrested because they think you're a Russian spy, right? Meteorite could hit you, lightning bolt, you could kill a deer. I mean, anything can go wrong. What you want to do is get away from having a crystal ball and trying to predict every single thing in the future, because sometimes people try to control the outcome so much that it creates fear, because you can't. You just have no idea what's coming next, right? And so, yes, control the preparation, right? Control your behavior, control the way you interact with the problem, but you do need to let go a little bit of the outcome and let nature take its course, and this is where your value system kicks in. Because if you're like, listen, I believe that if you compete hard, you're looking for answers, you're super well prepared, you're fit, you eat right, you go out there and you give everything you've got to try to, you're gonna win, right? You cleaned up your technique, you've developed parts of your game, you're going to win sometimes. You look at your decisions, you change the way you arrive at decisions to better ones, you update your philosophy, you're going to win sometimes. You don't have to worry about it so much, right? And you can kind of just lean on those habits, lean on that process, and let the result take care of itself and stop, because it's a future jump, right? What's going to happen tomorrow, right? And now I'm thinking in the future, I'm thinking about tomorrow. But basically, it's like, if I just handle my business today and I do a great job of it, and I did a great job the day before, and the day before, and I've been learning, I've been upgrading, you stay more in the present and you stop yourself from jumping backwards and forwards, which is a lot of time mentally spent in the future, in the past, but on things that you don't have a direct impact over, right? Okay, so you don't know the outcomes, right? You can't know what's going to work, what's not going to work. You can't know what choices they're going to make, how they're going to respond. So get out there and play, right? Play the game of tennis. Enjoy the battle. Enjoy the competition. Give it its rightful place in terms of its value in the world. It's not the be-all and end-all of everything. You've got your friends, you've got your family, you've got your other interests. And you shouldn't be in the obsessive range where you're thinking about a win or a loss for 3 months nonstop. That's a mental discipline that you want to get developed quickly, right? Okay, so go after it. Be bold, right? Don't be stupid. Try to take calculated risks. Try to pick moments where it makes sense to go after it, and have fun. Enjoy the competition, right? Be able to finish. Shake the guy's hand, look him in the eyes with honor and respect, and say, hey, you earned it today, well done. I respect your effort, and I'm just going to try to get better, so next time I can push you further. Easy peasy, right? Okay, get involved. Give it a go. Play, right? Stop looking for safety and security. Stop hiding in the corner and watching it all play out in front of your eyes. Get in there. Get in the ring, right? Be brave, right? Be brave a little bit, right? if you've seen opportunities slip through your fingers, you've seen other people get success while you're on the sidelines, it's not a nice feeling, right? It's a much better feeling to me personally to have tried and failed, and be like, well, I took my shot at it. That guy got it, but at least I was in the ring. At least I went after it, right? Okay. Pessimism, right? And boy, oh boy, this is the fourth quadrant where you have people that are low energy, right, and negative. Everybody has an aunt or uncle or someone like that, but you spend an hour with them and you feel like depressed, right? So looking at all the reasons why it can't be done, right? The problem here, it's a mathematical problem, is that if you spend 100 minutes out of 100 minutes looking for faults, problems, stopping points, right, your focus is distracted because you're not looking for a solution, right? If I ask you to make a list of all the things that are not a set of car keys, that list is infinite. The desk, the ceiling, the planet Pluto, you'll never stop, but you'll never find the car keys because you're looking for everything but the car keys, right? So you end up with zero productivity in the problem solving department, and you end up with no skill for solving anything, right? Figuring out what doesn't work, right? If that's your focus, is just to focus on what isn't working, right, is not the same as figuring out what works, right? You could spend 1 million years figuring out ways something is going to fail and be no closer to finding out what is going to work, right? So you gotta find what does work, right? Give it a try, get the results, see that it doesn't work, maybe talk to some mentors, pros, make sure that it's not something that's going to pay off later. And then if it doesn't work, abandon it and get the next idea. But you got to be a factory of ideas too. That's where positivity comes in, right? Positivity, if I give you a task that cannot be done, right? Grow a colony on Mars in a year, right? No one's going to work hard at it because nobody believes it can be done. And nobody's going to have any ideas as to making it work because they're like, no, we're not going to do it. So what's the point? So when you're negative, you also lose your idea forming capacity, right? Whereas if you have a task that you believe can be done, you start thinking, okay, well, if we're going to do this colony on Mars, what's our first step, right? How do we get it to be habitable? How do we develop life support systems, right? What kind of rocket are we taking? And now you start to ask questions that stimulate you going after fixing it, right? Okay. And then number 8 on this list, complaining, crying, whining, griping, moaning, right? First of all, it's a waste of time. We went through productivity earlier on, right? But out of 100 minutes of a training session, if you spend 23 minutes on crying, your training session is cut short by 23 minutes, right? Second of all, if you're a serial complainer, right? Because people like to be around positive solvers with ideas, what can I do about this? How have you tried this? Why don't you think about this? Why don't you do that? They feel like, ooh, this person's going to keep popping out answers and they're going to get one sooner or later. And you gravitate towards that, right? You drastically reduce the number of people who want to be around you or who can stand to be around you when you're always complaining, right? So you cannot do this alone. You've got to attract talent to your team. You've got to attract the right people. Talent is rare, right? Talent is essential, right? And you can't put a price on what it's going to do for your results having the right people in your space, right? And the only way to attract the absolute top people in is to have a top attitude, guaranteed, because people don't want to waste their time. If they see a guy that's been in and out of prison and is now promising, I'm going to figure it out, blah, they're like, nah, the track record, I don't want to spend 5 years with this guy because what if he is back in jail in 5 years' time? Then I'm 5 years older and I get nothing for it, right? So, people are attracted to that good track record, great attitude, great work ethic. They treat their team well. And, people say, hey, there's a good shot here. This could be something that's worth investing my time in. And I'm excited to do it, right? So just remember, complaining, whining, griping, moaning, always, got something to say that's negative. You're going to push people away. And the people that you need that can really, really help bring out your best performance are going to be gone, right? You'll see these two little glowing eyes in the distance, but you will never catch up to them, right? Okay. So typically, top people don't like complainers, and they're not going to enable you to do so. They're going to get rid of that habit real fast, right? If you're surrounded by people who let you continue to whine and moan every single day, I'm telling you, you don't have the right people. These are enablers. It's the same as, letting someone, I don't know, take drugs or drink or whatever, but, oh, it's okay, it's fine. It's like, no, it's not fine, right? Okay, so moral of the story, right? Moaning and complaining occupies probably the number one most detrimental spot on the deadliest personality traits list. It's lose-lose. It's lose for you, it's lose for your team because they waste their time, right? And it's number one on it's going to cancel your future ranking list, right? So you want to stay away from it as fast as possible, right? So if you're a complainer, and we all do it sometimes, sometimes it's easy to complain. Sometimes we probably do it more than is normal for our personality, right? But give it up, right? Just cold turkey it and say, I'm done. I'm not going to complain anymore. I don't want to end up stranded on the desert of regret. Just finally, very, very important, I want to end with on this one, but our lives, our goals, our outcomes are determined, are affected far more by the way we think things are. Our interpretation of the events. I interpret being 5-2 down as a catastrophe, or I interpret 5-2 down as a wonderful opportunity to test my fighting spirit and to really, really dig in and problem solve with every ounce of my being, right? Those two thoughts, those two attitudes towards that situation are going to create two very, very, very different end products, right? All right, long one today, but very, very important. Diseases of attitude. Again, as we're building that mind, now we just covered some territory that you want to make sure you get rid of these 7 or 8 things as quickly as possible. Deal with them and be done, so that you can move on to your future. All right, so we'll see you guys for the next one, lesson 7. And thank you for your time, and we'll see you on the next one. All right, bye for now.